Welcome to Talent Talks, quickfire questions to get to know leaders in recruitment. I'm Tom, founder and CEO here at Pinpoint, and today I'm joined by Sophie Brown, Talent Acquisition Manager at thyssenkrupp Materials UK. thyssenkrupp are one of our brilliant customers. They work in the manufacturing industry, and I think really interestingly, Sophie very frequently recruits these super niche roles like slitter operator and plate saw operator, which is a super interesting challenge. Really excited to chat more about how she's doing that. Are you ready for some questions, Sophie?
Yeah, let's fire away.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me today. So I think, look, we always start with the same thing, right? If you weren't in recruitment, what would you be doing?
This is a really good question because I have lots of different interests that I'm interested in. So that can honestly range from marine biology. So I'm a bit of a shark nerd. I really love sharks, but obviously I'm not going to be a marine biologist in the UK because there's no fun ones or exciting ones here. So that one's out the window. My team laugh at me as well because I'm really into true crime. So if you need any Netflix documentary recommendations, I'm the girl to come to. I always think being an investigative journalist in true crime would have been really interesting. But if I had to pick, if I wasn't in recruitment, I would probably be doing something maybe within dermatology or skincare because I'm quite interested in that as well. So I'd probably go for that.
Awesome. There's a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
No, it's great. No, it's brilliant. And look, we just spent like 20 minutes talking about our collection of the dogs and really enjoying this.
Exactly. Yeah, love dogs as well. So maybe a dog groomer.
You left me hanging on two things there, right? So you said you love sharks, and my best friend's wife is obsessed with sharks. So I need to ask you what your favorite type of shark is.
That's probably very cliche, but it's got to be a great white. That is top of my bucket list. I would love to go great white shark cage diving. That would just be, yeah. I know it's so random, isn't it? I don't even know where the interest came from, but I've just always been really fascinated by sharks or marine life. That's why I say marine biology would have been really interesting, but not here in the UK because I'm not that interested in basking sharks in Cornwall. So
yeah, no, I get that. I live in Jersey, and we have those off the coast of Jersey every now and again as well. So that's cool. And then the second thing is you whet the appetite with the true crime Netflix recos, but then didn't actually give us any. So please give us a Netflix recommendation.
Oh gosh, now I've got to think of one, haven't I? Oh my goodness, why can't I think of one off the top of my head? I'll tell you what, I can give you a good podcast. Actually, this is a good follow-on because they did recently do a Netflix documentary about it as well. It's called Sweet Bobby. And it's about this woman who was basically catfished in the most horrendous way. I won't say any more, but if any of your listeners or if you're interested in that, then please go ahead and listen to it because it is a really good one.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sophie. So we talked about driving to sites and stuff like that. I think let's talk about what you're actually doing at thyssenkrupp. So give me the 60-second summary of what your role is and what that looks like day to day.
Okay, sure. So my role really does encompass everything from recruitment and talent acquisition. So I'm responsible for all of the hires across all of our sites in the UK. So we have just under 500 employees across our sites. We have 3 sites in the Birmingham area, 1 in Preston, 1 in Darton, 1 in Milton Keynes, and then we have 2 in Belfast as well. So I'm responsible for doing all of the recruitment for all of those roles. So that's everything from doing the vacancy briefings with the hiring managers, advertising the roles, screening the candidates, doing the telephone interviews, booking in the interviews, doing obviously all the feedback with the candidates as well. And then there's the more strategic side of my role too. So obviously last year we implemented Pinpoint, which was a really fun project to work on. This year I'm looking a lot at our EVP and looking at how we can build our employer brand and reach those candidates too that aren't necessarily as tech savvy. Some of our candidates within operations, they're not on LinkedIn, they might be on Indeed, but it's like, how do we reach those candidates as well? So we are doing open days this year. We're going out to careers fairs as well. So it encompasses everything. Being part of the people team too, I get involved with a lot of projects that maybe a talent acquisition professional might not always have had the opportunity to get involved with being in a smaller company. Say we're a smaller company. We're not. We're a global organisation, but in the UK, we are just under 500. So I'm part of the people team, and we have been accredited for top employer for the last 2 years as well. So we're always looking at what we can do to not just maintain that accreditation, but what can we do to actually be the top employer and continue to be that top employer as well. So yeah, it's a really versatile role, to be honest, but I really love it.
It makes a lot of sense.
Seconds. Sorry.
It's perfect. Don't worry about it. I think you talked a lot there about these recurring themes. You talk about candidate experience, you talk about EVP, you talk about top employers. Like there's clearly a kind of a passion and a commercial desire within the business to really look after the team. Talk to me about what you're doing on the candidate experience side, right? So how do you attract those candidates, especially in the context of You were saying before, obviously, these people aren't necessarily sat on LinkedIn all day. They may be on Indeed, but what are you doing to get in front of these folks and give them a great experience?
So I really don't think there is one thing in particular that attracts candidates, because candidates come to roles through various channels and their interests are different as well. So it's a multitude of things. So it's looking at obviously your adverts and being transparent. There's a lot of trends, and you see it a lot about candidates just wanting transparency when it comes to the salary and also the role as well. And for some of our roles, maybe new candidates coming into the workforce, unless they're in this industry, might not have even heard. You mentioned earlier about a slitter operator. They might not have even heard of that before. So we don't just want to make an advert that is all singing and dancing and then the candidates get to interview and actually don't really know what it is. So the fact that we can add in videos into our adverts now through Pinpoint has been such an amazing help for us, because yes, we might have seen a reduction in the amount of applications, but the quality has been better. So yeah, so getting your adverts right is really important. Looking at how you can reach candidates who maybe aren't online so much. Like I said, we're actually going to be doing some open days this year at our site. We're going to be attending more careers fairs, and some of these careers fairs are in shopping centres as well. So we're reaching people that might not have even known who thyssenkrupp are, but then come and stumble across us at these careers fairs. So that's another way. I think as well, we're quite good at promoting our culture, our one team ethos here at thyssenkrupp. So I do think that really helps us attracting candidates, because when we look at the data from our employee surveys as well, one of the biggest reasons why people do stay with us for so long is because of our culture and our one team ethos. So we like to market that as part of our EVP.
You talk there about videos are great, and you're educating the market sometimes as to roles maybe that they didn't know even existed or that they could do. I love that. I guess it opens up a broader question around how do you think about that balance between hiring experienced folks who've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, have loads of experience, versus folks that you're going to invest in upskilling and bringing new talent into the business? How do you think about managing that balance?
Yeah, so I think we're always very realistic. We know we're not always going to get super experienced candidates, but we don't want that either. Again, one of the reasons why we have people stay with us for so long is because we offer really good career opportunities and we develop from within. If we are ever hiring, we'll always look to promote people internally first. Our people team as well do lots of really great work on workforce planning and succession planning. So we're always looking ahead at what skills will we need for the future. Is that something that we can maybe bring an apprentice in for and train them up for those future skills needs? Or can we offer somebody else internally that opportunity? Like you say, it is really finding a balance, because sometimes you do need to bring in that expertise, because then they can also be a mentor for the more junior employees and offer that expertise and that mentorship and then help to progress them as well. We've got a really strong people team here, and so they're always working with the managers to bridge those gaps, especially when there's skills shortages as well.
Makes loads of sense. When we speak and have this conversation with lots of people, often maybe not the pushback, but the resistance or the challenge has been often that organizations struggle to create the infrastructure that you keep referencing. You've got this mature and established people team, you've got the wider business support, you're a well-known brand, you've got the ability to provide that training internally, and so it makes a lot more sense. I think lots of organizations want to build versus buy, and they try that, but they've not put the right ingredients in the pot to make sure that's successful, and they find then they don't get the results, right?
I think as well, sometimes we've brought in apprentices and they've been absolutely fantastic. They've had no experience, and it just proves what we're always trying to say. You know, it's not always about the technical skills, it's about the soft skills and having the right attitude and willingness to learn. And we have some amazing apprentices who are now flourishing and doing so well within our organisation. And I think because we have that, the rest of our managers then see that and see the benefit of it too. So we do get a lot of support for that.
We'll move on to talk about interviewing and some data and stuff in a second. Before we do that, I've got my 2 wildcard questions I always have to throw in there just to mix it up a bit. So first one's, if someone was to write a book about your life, what would the title of that book be?
What would the title of that be? Maybe Sophieisms. Something to do with that. My family have a whole book of Sophieisms, things that I've come out with, which just has them howling. Yeah, that's a tough one, to be honest. What would yours be? Back on you now.
God, I don't know. I read a book recently, and the chap in the book basically said that being an entrepreneur was like thousands of days of eating glass, randomly interspersed with a few days of extreme joy. And I think something like that, like eating glass and finding it enjoyable, or something like that, would probably be.
But now that where you are now, I'm not just saying this. Obviously, we went through a lot of demos, and we really had to be sure that the ATS system that we chose was going to be the right one. And I can't say enough good things about Pinpoint. It has just been such a joy to work with since we started, like right from the first calls with Andy, then to working with Ryan, and it is an amazing system. So you should be so proud of yourself.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. I think I just don't want to take too much credit for the work of the team, right? You highlighted some great people there. I think I'm good at finding smart people and putting them together, but the Pinpoint experience is not the Tom Hacquoil experience. And I'm very happy to take credit for it, though. So thank you very much.
Well, you should still take credit for it too. It's a team effort, isn't it? So. For
sure. I really appreciate that. And Sophie Isms is a great book title, much better than these. Enjoying it. I don't often get asked my own questions. And then I'm going to go straight to the second wildcard question so we can wrap up on the data stuff in a sec. I think if you could spend an entire day shadowing someone doing a completely different job in a completely different industry, who would it be and why?
Oh, okay. I've got a good one here. It would have to be David Attenborough, because let's be honest, the guy is an absolute legend, isn't he? He's a national treasure. And I think the places that you would go with him would be so fascinating. You get to see so many different climates, so many different animals, and see lots of different people in lots of different roles, from photographers, dives. I think that would be so fascinating. So
I love that. That's a great answer. Good effort. I like that. Thank you, Sophie.
Who would yours?
Much less interesting than yours, because I'm a very boring person, but probably Bernard Arnault. Bernard Arnault is the CEO and the founder of LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy.
Okay.
And LVMH is just a massive holding company for fashion and retail brands, typically. Yeah. And it's very different to the world that I live in, and he's very far ahead in his journey. But I love reading about leaders and founders and CEOs. But actually, there's very little written about Bernard Arnault, and it's quite hard to fly behind the scenes of what he's doing. And so that's probably how I would spend my day. Way less exciting.
Try and have a look myself on him after our call.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's a bit of a grumpy man, but that's eventually what I'm becoming anyway. So it's part of the journey, I think. Cool. Look, that was a great answer. Honestly, that was really cool. Thank you. So back to the work stuff. You've talked about candidate experience. You've talked about different types of folks, building, buying, all these kind of things. You talk about these amazing apprentices as well. And I can believe that. And I see some of that stuff play out in real life. When you're interviewing people and assessing them, what's your favorite question? What's your go-to thing that helps you work out if someone's great or not?
So one of my favorite questions is, why are you interested in working for thyssenkrupp? And that's because we're all genuinely really proud to be part of thyssenkrupp, and we want people who are those brand ambassadors. Even within our operations teams, they know they're not just a plate store operator. They really understand how they contribute to our organizations. Right from when I'm speaking to them at that telephone interview, I tell them that they're contributing to making parts that might go into an aeroplane, or it might go into an MRI scanner, or it might go into a kettle in somebody's kitchen. I think it's really important that they know how they fit into the company. And so we want people within our organization who are going to be those ambassadors for us and are proud to work for us, because then they'll want to keep growing in their career here, and we'll see them stay a lot longer. So I always find that question really interesting, because you hear lots of different answers. I hear a lot now from candidates about they've had a look on our website and they're seeing all the great things we're doing when it comes to sustainability and our greenability strategy, or they've seen about our events and our wellbeing events that we put on, or our career opportunities. I like that question, because I like to know they've done a bit of research and they actually want to work for us, because I do think we differ from our competitors in that sense. For example, everyone who works for us is entitled to a company bonus. So right from apprentice level all the way upwards, and it's a fair bonus. Everyone gets similar percentages as well. So we do really practice that one team ethos, and we want people who are going to come into our organisation who also want to be part of that.
I love that. It's not actually about assessing the individual skill of the candidate. It's about, are they going to form part of a team that we want, right? And are they going to buy into the vision? And I think
the soft skills for us are, like I said before, there are sometimes roles where we do need that technical expertise, but more often than not, we can train people up, because we've got other people who have that and they can train people. And so it's all about the soft skills for us, and having people who can be a culture fit or a culture add to our teams as well. No, we're not just looking for that technical expertise.
No, makes perfect sense. Let's talk about data, right? I'm a geeky, nerdy dude. I love data, love to understand. What are you looking at as a TA manager to track and measure the success of the work that you're doing in the team?
So of course, we look at our time to hire and our time to fill. That obviously falls a lot on me, how quickly I'm moving candidates through the process, but then we'll look at how long they're staying at each stage as well, to see are they sat at a particular stage with a hiring manager, so we can then look to improve those processes. Obviously, we want to make the processes streamlined as we can for our candidates. We want to provide them an amazing experience. I myself was made redundant last Christmas, and felt firsthand what it's like to be ghosted by companies, or just to go through a process which just takes months, and it just doesn't feel good, and it makes you lose faith in that company. And so for me, the candidate experience really is so important. I want them to feel like it's seamless and easy to go through. But of course, we look at things like where are our candidates coming from to track our return on investment, candidate surveys as well. So our candidate net promoter score, obviously that's saying whether the process that we have in place is efficient or not. But for me, it really is less about tracking the success, but actually looking more about, okay, what can we do to make this even better? What can we do to improve it? We're always trying to drive down that time to hire, drive down the amount of time they're spending at stages, look at our equality and diversity as well. How can we improve on that too?
Makes perfect sense. I love the sort of anecdote about your own experience as a candidate and being laid off. I think oftentimes the people who care deeply about these things that aren't necessarily immediately tied to commercial value, i.e. like candidate wait time, are people who've had that kind of borne out of their own negative experiences. And so great that you can see that make a difference for future.
Yeah, it sounds really cliche, but I genuinely, that is honestly why I'm in recruitment. I think a lot of people you speak to who are in talent acquisition have probably fallen into it. A lot of people I speak to have, and I certainly did too. But that is why I'm still in this, and I'm not in dermatology, because I do really love talent acquisition, and I like having a role which is both hands-on and proactive, doing the recruitment, but also the strategic side, because I still like to speak to candidates and I still like to offer them that job, because I know what it feels like when you really want a job and then you do get offered. It's honestly, it's such an amazing feeling, and it makes my day giving that call to candidates. So
I'm sure. I love that. Cool. Last two questions. I think AI, we can't have a conversation these days without talking about AI, right? What's your take on it? How's it impacting the industry in general? And how are you thinking about it at thyssenkrupp?
Oh gosh, yeah, it is a big question, isn't it? I think you have to have a balanced approach when it comes to AI. So it's doing some great things, but there are certain things that definitely still need to have a human-centered approach. So I look at screening of CVs, for example. Obviously, AI can screen candidates out for you, but for me, that still needs to have that human approach to it, because like I said, we're not just looking at technical skills, we're looking at those soft skills and the cultural fit, the culture add, and AI can't assess that. And sometimes I'll be looking at a CV and I might just have a question mark on something, but I don't want to rule that candidate out just because of that. I want to have a conversation with them. So I think from that side, it still needs to be quite human-centered. But then I think it's doing some amazing things too. I think the work I'm seeing on chatbots, for example, on career sites, I really love that, because that could answer a lot of frequently asked questions to candidates and answer them quickly, as opposed to them having to maybe call in or email. They can get an answer a lot quicker, which again is better for their candidate experience. Also means that I have more time to dedicate to the things that I want to do as well and are important to the candidates. Good from an anonymized screening perspective. I think that could be really useful for companies who might have some unconscious bias that they need to address. So yeah, I want to learn more about it, but I'm not all AI. I think there's got to be a balance.
I'm the nerdy guy, and I'm not all AI either. I think that makes perfect sense, and I love the balance. I think not ignoring it and pretending it's going to not happen and go away is a sensible strategy, but equally throwing everything under the AI banner is not a particularly sensible strategy. I'd say two things. I think one, if your recruitment team is phoning it in, they don't really care, they're not looking, they're not passionate about it like you, they don't get satisfaction from giving that great candidate the offer on the phone, like, then maybe actually AI can do a similar job. I think AI isn't replicating the experience you're offering candidates anytime soon, first and foremost.
And that to me would just say then that company in the long run will suffer, because they will end up recruiting people maybe who weren't quite right for the business or weren't properly interviewed, and so they maybe haven't got a full overview of what the role is that they're coming to, and then they might leave further down the line. So they're just constantly going to have issues if they look at it like that.
I agree, but I think the thing that you said a second ago, which was really interesting though, was you talked about, hey, actually you want to spend the time looking at things, and maybe you put a question mark on something that you've seen in the CV, but you want to take the time to probe deeper because you don't want to rule the candidate out preemptively. I think the problem a lot of people have, and you alluded to it sort of 10 minutes or so ago, was you got too many applicants, there's too much volume. But so what people are then doing is they're knee-jerk reacting, let's just use AI to screen them all out. Actually, what you did, and you talked about it, was actually we did some videos and we educated our candidates more upfront about what it is they were signing up for, and your volume dropped.
Yeah.
Well, that volume drop is a good thing, because you're seeing more qualified folks, and then you can take the time you need to spend them, right?
It's quality, not quantity. That's what we're aiming for. We want candidates to apply with a good idea of what the role is that they're actually applying for. Because of course people use AI to write job adverts as well, and it can sound like you hear the classic example, don't you, of sandwich artists. What the hell? That's not a role, is it?
No, I love it.
I think you just have to be cautious, don't you?
I think it makes perfect sense. And I think, look, final question. We're recording this basically most people's first day back in 2025, right? And so I think as we look ahead for the year, what do you see as the biggest challenge on the TA industry's radar for 2025?
I think there's a couple, especially for our industry. There's still a skills shortage and lack of candidates out there, especially for our industry within manufacturing. I think companies are also still competing when it comes to hybrid working and remote working as well. Obviously, a lot of companies can offer that. And so it's about how do companies ensure fairness across their organisation. For example, we've got a team that are in operations, so they're on site all of the time, but then the rest of our organisation are very much flexible hybrid. And so how do companies ensure that they are managing to keep a cohesive culture and keep that team building going? So I think that's going to continue to be a challenge, because candidates, they do want that remote working or flexible working still, but you still need people in the office as well. It is easier to bounce off ideas, and so it's about finding that balance. So I think there's still going to be challenges for this year.
Makes perfect sense. Sophie, thank you so much for your time today. It's
No,
been great
thank
having you.
It's been lovely speaking to you too. It was really interesting. And thank you for answering the questions on the wild cards as well.
Yeah, it's good.
Put you on the spot there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, for everybody else, I think you can follow Sophie on LinkedIn if you want to keep up with what she's doing. And you've heard loads of great things that Sophie and the people team at thyssenkrupp are up to. Go follow them on LinkedIn as well. We'll put links to that, to do that in the show notes. But thank you very much for listening. If you know anybody else who'd be a great Talent Talks guest, please reach out and let me know. And have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom.